What up everybody, it's a new day, so that means another video. Today I'm going to be doing the installation of a Coastal Offroad rear single swing out bumper. And as with the other Coastal products, this is a product that shows up in a bunch of boxes and you weld it together yourself. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take off the factory bumper and tow hitch, and that's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm not going to show you the step-by-step process of that. Mostly what you need to know is the tow hitch has some 17mm bolts, a couple 18mm bolts that you remove. It drops out, and then there's a whole bunch of 12mm bolts that hold the bumper together, and it's a 3-piece system. So if you want to watch a really good video on how to take the factory stuff off, just go watch Timmy the Toolman's video on his bumper installs. It's pretty specific. This part's really simple, so I'm not going to add to the length of the video by doing that. So I'm going to get it all pulled off, and then I'm going to lay out all the parts for my Coastal Offroad bumper, make sure that I've got everything, and then start putting it all together. So I've got everything unboxed now, and what I've done is I've looked at the schematic right there that came from Coastal Offroad, and I laid everything out as per that schematic, all right? So that I know a couple of things. One, that I have every part, and what I've done is just use a pencil to mark off every part to ensure I didn't miss anything. And then I learned from the first bumper build I did with the front bumper, it really helps when you lay it out as per the drawings that you're given when you do the build. So I'm gonna take a quick break for lunch and excuse me, and then get ripping on this thing. So I don't think it's gonna take a whole awful long time. It looks like there's a lot of pieces, but once you get the foundation and done and start tacking everything together, it's surprising how quick it goes. Yes, it takes a much longer time to finish weld everything, grind it all smooth, make it look nice, clean it, prime, paint, etc. But I think you'll be surprised how fast this actually goes. So I'm gonna grab some chow and then I get back after. All right, so finally got the parts I needed. My wife made a run for me. So these are the style of nuts, guys, that you're going to be welding to this piece here. 1A and 1B. Okay, and then those get welded on and they slide into your frame rail, and so that this plate right here can bolt to it. So these would be the ones you just welded. Those are your factory bolts that have nuts in them already. I got replacement bolts, and then I got to drill a hole for this last one. So I'm going to go ahead and get those bolted up. I'm going to make sure to run a nut or the bolt through the nut first, and make sure it's centered. So you can see here, the metal part here is part 1A. I just went ahead and ran the bolts down through the nuts, and then put the welding ground on it, just so you can tack the nuts onto those onto that flat bar. So that'll be your main mounting point for the next piece in the puzzle. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack those in, and then remove the bolts, and then move on to the next step. All right, so the nuts are welded on to piece 1A for both sides. So now these get inserted. These get inserted right here into the frame to the back two mounting plates, which are back here. So just get them in position, and then we'll move on to start tacking things. These will come into play in a couple more steps. So the next step here is to tack together piece number 2. You know this is number 2 because there's a cutout for the exhaust hanger. Piece 3, and then piece 4. We're going to tack these together, and then that whole assembly will get bolted right to the bottom of the 4Runner. Alright, so I've just welded parts 2, 3, and 4 together. Just a couple little tack welds. Now it gets bolted up to the frame. And I've enlisted the help of my beautiful wife to help with this. I'm going to go ahead and just lay underneath there. So next step is the shackle brackets. You'll see that they got those little notches on them. Those notches will fit right into pieces 2 and 3, just about like so. So that's how it'll look, right? So I'm just going to use a magnet and make sure everything's tight and flush, and then tack it in. Alright, as you can see, shackle brackets are in place with some magnets, both sides here. They perfectly fit into those notches. Time to tack. So the next step here is the rear faceplate, and this one has kind of an angle to it, so you got some grooves here that actually slide over the shackle brackets. Alright, so you see it slides over. I'm just going to use a rubber mallet to kind of give some help. Now you want this to have a 45-degree angle towards this bottom plate, guys, which is this one right here. Should look about like that. Okay, I'm gonna try to set it as close to 45 degrees and I'm just tacking in a little bit in an easy to reach place. The instructions say that the angle of that particular plate might need to be adjusted at a later time, so I'm gonna just get it as close to 45 as I possibly can and lightly tack it into place in case I have to make a correction later. Okay, so the next part is number 7, the top faceplate, and in the directions, this is where it makes reference to this 45-degree angle, guys, because when you put this plate on, it's got to sit flush here and on top of your shackle plates. If it doesn't, then you got to make some adjustments to make sure, and then it's also just got to be level in general. I'd say so far we're looking pretty good. pretty good. I'm gonna toss a level on it just to make sure, and then we'll go from there. As you can see, it's sitting there good. It's gonna give me a good channel to weld on. You can see in there it's making good contact with those shackle brackets. So I'm just gonna check the level, and if we're good, we'll tack it in. All right, so the next one to go in is piece number 8. And it's this weird looking shaped one. And it sits right here, there's a notch. You can see right there on the top plate. It sits right there. And then it goes to the bottom, number 2 on the passenger side, 3 on the driver's side. Now I went ahead and took the liberty because this is, as the instructions say, this is one of the most crucial pieces for tying in support. So I went ahead and beveled the edges to make sure I got really good penetration. Now we just got to tack everything in. Okay guys, next step is the hitch and the hitch support brackets. Okay, so when you put the hitch in, you got to make sure everything's square to the vehicle, and then also note in the directions that these brackets may need to be trimmed a little bit to ensure proper fitment. And the hitch obviously goes right here in that big square hole. So we'll go ahead and get everything kind of in place and play with it a little bit and make sure that we get proper fitment, and use a grinder if we need to, and then we're gonna get the next pieces tacked in. So I just wanted to point out one thing about this receiver hitch that is really awesome, is that it's actually a flush mount system. And so once you get it in here, it mounts completely flush to this 45-degree angle back plate, which is great for off-roading. Pull your hitch out, you don't have really anything to get snagged up on, which is pretty rad. So just thought I'd point that out. Great design feature. All right, so we're underneath the vehicle. This is the back of the receiver hitch we just put in. Those are the support braces. You want them flush to this bottom plate, number 4. On both sides, I've got a couple magnets holding them in place on the back side. You can see these cool cutouts here. That's so you can actually reach your hand in from the back side of your vehicle to put in your hitch pin. So, really cool feature. Once again, being completely recessed. All right, so we're at a really cool place because the center section is basically done, and it's looking pretty sweet. And I'll give you just a quick look over here. So now we got to move on to the sides, and the instructions from Coastal say the side wings are really important from a fitment standpoint, because all of the pieces 11 through 17 have got to fit really good together. So take your time, use little tacks. You may have to have some fitment, grinding, or what have you to get everything square and looking right. And it's really important that plate number 11, which is the top plate, I'll show you right now. It's this plate right here. Maintains a 1/2 inch body gap. Okay? And you have to have that body gap to allow for body roll when you're off-road. Now I'm going to use a tripod to hold up one end while I get everything tacked right here. That tripod is holding up the other end for me so I can get it nice and level and square. If you don't have that, 4-jack and a chunk of wood works good. Your wife, kids, anybody who wants to be involved, that's the tool I'm going to use. And so I'm just going to lightly tack it, and then we'll move on to piece number 12. The next piece is number 12, and it's got a tapered end that goes forward to accommodate for your wheel well. Now the instructions clearly say to make sure that it is 90 degrees parallel to number 11 that we just put on. And so once again, I'm going to use my tripod is a helping hand to accommodate that. And I am going to be recessing it so the top plate stays on top. That makes sense, right? And then just making sure that we're 90 degrees. And we are definitely there. Once again, using just small tacks in case you have to adjust anything moving forward here. So fitting all these pieces is a little challenging because you have the weight of the metal that wants to kind of droop down through gravity, right? So I think I've come up with a solution, and that's to use piece 14. Now piece 14 goes right here on the end. Okay, it ties in right here to the top plate, and then out here to number 12. Okay. Now, because it's completely square, and I just verified that it's square with machinist square, I'm going to go ahead and tack it into place on this piece here first, and then tack it to the top plate so that I can get it all square, so the metal, because right now the metal is dropping down. So that's what I'm going to do first, and then I'll worry about getting the next piece on, just to get it all square. That makes the most sense to me. All right, so that's it tacked in, right? And what that immediately does is strengthens this top plate. So now I think I've got a little bit more flexibility to massage the metal to make it all fit perfect. I've got a really good half-inch gap on the body line. Everything looks square. It's a little bit out of order in steps, but for me, I think it makes sense. So that's how I'm gonna move forward with it. Okay guys, so I just put in piece 13 now. So that big plate. And forgot to get me tacking it in, but that was technically the next piece after 12. But I went ahead, like I said, I used piece 14 to help me get it structurally a little bit more stable. So now I'll move into this last triangle piece, and which I believe should be number 15. And the passenger side is done. And then we'll move on to the driver's side. All right, piece number 15. Triangular shape. Fits in there. Just like that. Right there, keep moving it. There we go. Just like so. There we go. All right, so I got a little excited there. I still got to do these end cap pieces here. So pieces 16, that one will go right here, and then 17 to fill that gap right above it. Piece number 16 is in, and that gap goes this plate number 17. So it definitely had to do a little bit of cleanup work to get it in there, which, as the instructions pointed out, was to be expected. No big deal. And I'll definitely have to do a little cleanup work on here on the end when I fully weld, but It's going to look awesome when it's done, and the gaps look great. All right, guys. So moving on to the driver's side. I'm actually not going to film a step-by-step process here. Exactly the same, just opposite. You know, because it's opposite side, obviously, but same exact process, same exact trial and error, a little bit of grinding, make it fit. Your finished product will be awesome. So just go slow, don't be in a hurry. It'll turn out great. All right, final piece is the Shackle reinforcement. There's two of them, and they sandwiched right here. So just know, depending on your angle here, you may have to grind these a little bit to make sure that your holes are perfectly lined up. I'm gonna test fit mine, and then mine look absolutely perfect, which is awesome. So I'll just tack these in really quick, and then I'm gonna pull the bumper off and finish weld it before I begin moving on to the swing out tire carrier. Just repeat that step right here, and you guys are done tacking your bumper together. You can pull it off, clean it up, finish weld, clean it up, prime and paint. Guys, that's it. That is how you put the basic bumper together from Coastal Offroad. There is one small thing that I'm going to change when I pull it off, is not change but add on, is I'm going to cut a small hole right here so that I can do a flush mount trailer brake, trailer lights controller for my pop-up camp trailer. So that'll be one small thing that I do that changes from the factory, and I actually might put it over a little bit further just to make sure I don't interfere with being able to take the hitch pin out, putting the hitch pin in and out. So all right, I'm just going to go through and just make a few more tacks just to make sure that it's structurally sound before I go pulling everything off and having it come crumbling apart on me or something, but just some extra assurance. All right, guys, so the bumper is off the 4RUNNER, ready for final welding. There's one last piece that needs to go on, and this is your hitch reinforcement that fits right in there and gets welded on just to connect everything together. So I'm going to go ahead and burn that in, final weld, get everything cleaned up and primed at least by dinner time. What up, everybody? It's a new day here in northern Nevada, and I'm back working on my Coastal Offroad rear bumper. I can't say enough about the product. It just went together really well so far, and well, it's together. I just finished welding everything, so now it's time to start grinding. I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of how everything looks here. The shackles and the tow hitch, the shackle mounting points are just all super legit. Pretty excited. It's cool, and it's heavy. Don't get me wrong. I would argue that just the bumper itself is not substantially heavier than the factory tow hitch and the factory bumper system combined. It's definitely heavier, but not substantially. I might actually throw it on a scale just to compare the two. But I want to tell you guys, if you're interested in doing something like this, don't be afraid to try. It's not hard, just takes a little time. And I cannot speak highly enough of this little welder I got. I bought that from Harbor Freight. I think it was like $379 on sale. It's a 140 amp welder. It has had no problem. As a matter of fact, I actually tried turning it up, not all the way, but up higher than the settings I've been using for the thicker steel, and the flux core wire can't handle it. So it has way more capabilities if you were using a MIG system and solid wire, but with the flux core I got super good penetration, and I'm really happy with it so far. So I'm gonna get to grinding. I got a lot of grind work to do, and then once I grind, maybe I'll identify a couple spots I missed or what have you, go back and fix those. Then I'm gonna hit it with a flap wheel, get everything clean really well, and then prime it tonight so that by the end of the weekend I can have it put on my 4RUNNER. And I just also wanted to point out that I did fully weld the external or the outside of the bumper. In a lot of places I also welded a lot on the inside of the bumper itself, just to add structural strength, specifically in the areas where the Coastal Offroad mentions these are the critical support pieces. So just make sure you pay attention to those directions. It just gave me a little reassurance. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started, guys, and I got a lot of grinding ahead of me. Okay guys, so I'm at a cool point. Everything's sanded down, pretty smoothed out. The recessed receiver hitch is dope. The only thing I've run into is I need a hole saw or some new jigsaw blades. This is where I'm gonna put my 7-plug trailer lights. The plug, the female end for my pop-up, and jigsaw blade. The one metal one I had just broke, so I'll have to wait to get those till tomorrow. But other than that, I'm gonna get it in and clean it with some alcohol, and then go ahead and shoot a coat of primer on it tonight, and then I'll show you guys the rest when it's finished up. What up, everybody? Just continuing on here with my Coastal bumper. So everything is ground down and clean. So now it's time for primer. So I just finished up this hole here, and that'll be for my trailer plug, for my camp trailer. I figured that would be a really good place for it. So I've got it all squared away. I've got it all wiped down with acetone, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a really good coat of primer. Tap coat of primer, and then I'll hit it again with a second coat. So that's what I'm working on now, getting much closer to being done with this part, and then next weekend I'll actually tackle the spare tire mount. I don't have time this week. We're actually planning on going camping, so I need my bumper so I can tow the camper. So anyways, I'm gonna get after it and get some primer on this bad boy, and keep on plugging away. All right, so the next thing that I've got to add here to the bumper that I kind of forgot about was I need some type of connection for the safety chains for when I tow my camp trailer. So what I ended up doing is getting a couple chain links that are heavy duty hardened steel, high tensile strength, and I'm actually just gonna weld them on right here to the back so they can hang down and they're inconspicuous. I thought about putting them on the other side by the receiver, and I just didn't like the look. It kind of takes away from the angle of the bumper. So I'm just going to hit the paint really quick with a flapper wheel or the primer so I get good adhesion, weld these things on, prime, and then I'm going to start putting the truck bed coating on so I can get it mounted. And then I'm also got to weld the tabs and bolts for the frame mount. Now I had to drill a hole, an extra hole, and that one's for this back hole right. Nope, this hole up here. And I've already drilled those in the frame, so I'll actually have a total of 5 mounts. But the hardware store didn't have the right bolts, so I had to wait a couple of days and get some new ones. So I've got to weld those up, get those primed, as well as prime the ones that are currently in my channel of my frame. And then this baby's good to get bolted up today. So, and then probably next weekend, guys, we'll do the swing out tire carrier. My wife's been pretty patient with me, and I have some honeydews to do, so I'll have to save that for another day. All right, guys, so this is what I decided to use on the bumper post prime, and it's the same product that I used. Same product that I used for both the sliders and the front bumper. Not the best product on the market by any means, but it's cheap. So if you make have a ding or something like that, it's really easy to replace or touch up. So I've been pretty happy with it with the front bumper so far. I've had it on there since I think late March, and so far it's good. I don't have any repairs or anything to make, so it's held up pretty well. So I'm gonna let it dry now, do some honeydews around the house, and then we'll get this thing mounted. And I do have some lights to put in and wire in, as well as a trailer towing light package. So we'll do that as well. But now we're just gonna let it dry, and I'll check back with you guys in a bit. All right, guys. So the bumper's been drying all day. You can see it there. Super nice here today, and I definitely need another coat of the truck bed coating. I'm not going to worry about it, like I said before, because I still got to do the swing out tire carrier, and probably next weekend or something like that. But I need to be able to get my vehicle back on the road with some protection, so I can actually go back and forth to work. So it's going to be good enough for now. I've got several coats of primer, one heavy coat of the truck bed coating. So my wife's going to actually help me get this thing installed.